He just made a call to the governor of Texas saying, in this case, not find me the votes, but find me new seats to rig the game. If we want to still be in this game, we need to disabuse ourselves, disenthrall ourselves of the status quo in the past. No more defense, go on offense, fight fire with fire. So you ask me, am I in? I'm all in. You ask me, am I committed? I'm all in, committed and resolved. This is not a bluff. This is a moment to be held to a higher level of accountability.
So the Texas redistricting battle that we've been covering is starting to take a really interesting turn, because after today, Texas Republicans announced the official map that they're looking to move forward with here. You're finally starting to see Democrats get called out on their insane dishonesty, hypocrisy, whatever word you want to use. But of course, these are the same exact people who have spent weeks claiming that Republicans are gerrymandering and Trump is trying to rig the 2026 election. And you finally see people like J.D. Vance confronting this issue directly with the evidence that I've long been pointing out here. Like to consider us being one of the trailblazers on this issue, that no, as a matter of fact, Democrats gerrymander as well. As a matter of fact, when you look at the current reality of America, the just simple fact is that Democrats have already gerrymandered to the maximum. They've done it significantly more egregiously than Republicans. And all that you're seeing out of the redistricting effort in Texas is to essentially balance those scales. And that is what J.D. Vance confronted directly here today when he called out Gavin Newsom and the outrageous gerrymandering in Democrat favor that, of course, takes place right now in California. Gavin Newsom, of course, has been massively trying to grift off this issue, trying to virtue signal, claim, oh, we're going to do that as well. You know, we play fair. They're not playing fair. So we'll show you this exchange that stands as yet another example of like the beginning of what will very likely, it would seem here, be the 2028 presidential race. But I also want to give you the current details of what is going on in Texas and just even more evidence thus far on top of what we've already showed you in terms of how egregiously dishonest the Democrats are on this topic. And hence why I'm glad to see again they're finally being called out on it, because objectively it's very easy for them to run with this issue using the buzzwords, oh, rigging the election, oh, gerrymandering, all this stuff. But when you actually, again, break down the facts of this situation, of this debate, you'll rapidly find out that Democrats play to win, and all I'm saying here is that Republicans really ought to do the same. So we'll get into it. First, though, folks, as usual, do us a favor. If you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Subscribing here, guys, is not only the best way to support our videos, but it also ensures that you can stay up to date with all of the latest news and coverage. With that said, so we got the official map out of today. This is the redrawn 2026 House map, published here by Texas Republicans. And as we've been kind of hyping up here, this could indeed result in 5 new +5 Republican House pickups in the midterms. Now, with all of that in mind, you of course see Gavin Newsom and many others just absolutely having a meltdown about this, and they're still going to this day. So take a listen.
That's how strongly I feel about this moment. And I think millions, hundreds of millions of Americans feel the same. We take Donald Trump seriously when he talks about the 2028 election. I mentioned to my friends a moment ago that I got a hat, a Trump 2028 hat from one of Donald Trump's biggest supporters, one of his biggest and most influential supporters. They're not screwing around.
You gotta love him being that pissed off over the fact that some random Trump supporter mailed him a Trump 2028 hat as a joke too. You know, you got trolled. I'm so mad about this. I can't, he's gonna run again. Can you believe it, guys? It's like, okay. Not even Trump. Some random guy, top supporter, AKA a random guy, mails him a hat as a joke to screw with him, to make him mad. And here he is seething. I mean, I think you proved the point there, but okay, back to the clip.
We cannot afford to screw around either. We have got to fight fire with fire. And I'll close on that point. What more evidence do you need in the state of California in the last just 6 months? Warrantless raids all across this state. Conditioning, threatening to condition disaster aid on the basis of politics, not on the basis of principles and the needs of people. We've seen these illegal tariffs take shape and impact this state disproportionately more than any other state. All of this is on the line. And so that's why we're here drawing not just new lines, but standing firm and trying to hold the line on democracy, our freedoms, our liberties, things that we can no longer take for granted.
So he wants to fight fire with fire, except as we've been talking about, first of all, they've already been playing with fire, because we'll go through again some actually new evidence to show you here today of even more cases of Democrat gerrymandering. But on top of that, as we also covered, there is very little room for Democrats to even gerrymander worse in this regard, because first of all, they're running into their own problem, which is like the state commissions and all that are in states like California. But on top of that, again, Democrats have already gerrymandered to the max, so what more can they do? Well, here is the math. We'll go over some of the things we've already talked about. Again, this debate of, Democrats are playing fair, Republicans are rigging the elections. I mean, I've showed you the Illinois congressional map here several times, but just to recap, yeah, look at that district in yellow, look at the one in purple. This is, by the way, a zoomed in picture on the Chicago map. I mean, again, you want to tell me this is fair? When you break it down here again, guys, by the numbers, in 2024, Donald Trump won 43% of the vote in Illinois. Kamala Harris won 54%. So it is a D+11 state, and yet the delegation of congressional breakdown there is 14 Democrat representatives, 3 Republicans. Why is that? That is precisely because of, again, Democrat-favored gerrymandering. Oh, as it turns out, despite all their virtue signaling, despite all their posturing about this, they played the game to win. All I'm saying again is that Republicans ought to do the same. So with that said, we've gone over this map a million times, but here's some new numbers to throw at you. So the current Texas versus California situation. In California, Democrats control 83% of the seats, Republicans control 17%. Under the new Texas map, Republicans will control 79%, Democrats 21%. So, again, they're talking so much about the gerrymandering here. But guys, it actually gets much worse. Here's a breakdown of the numbers here of many different states, not just Illinois, like we've constantly made the example here. So, yes, in California, Republicans get 40% of the statewide vote. They only get 17% of the congressional seats. But the Democrats are playing fair. No, they're not. In Massachusetts, Republicans get 35% of the statewide vote. They get 0% of the congressional seats, 0 out of 9. In Connecticut, they get 38% Republicans of the statewide vote, 0% of the congressional seats. In New York, 42% of the vote, only 26% of the seats. New Jersey, 43%, only 25% of the seats. Maryland, which is another heavily Democrat gerrymandered state, by the way, very infamous, much like Illinois, 38% of the statewide vote, only 12% of the seats. That is 1 out of 8. In New Mexico, by the way, a state that is only like D+10, right? 44% of the statewide vote. Republicans get 0 of the 3 seats, and the story here goes on. You look at Rhode Island, Washington, Oregon, Hawaii, same situation there. Ready to go politics here further notes that the GOP won the House popular vote by 3% in 2024 and only ended up with that narrow 5-seat majority. By the way, you kind of look now in retrospect. You wonder why 2022 was a red mirage on the House level. You wonder why even in 2024, when Donald Trump wins the popular vote, sweeps every major swing state, why it is the case that Republicans barely took the House. That's because of Democrat gerrymandering. You don't believe me? Break down here the math. In 2016, they won the House popular vote by only 1% and had a 47-seat majority. This is due to Democratic gerrymandering, while Republicans have been unwilling to do what Texas is about to do. That is indeed correct. So here's my take on the situation. Again, establishing now that Democrats are pretty egregious gerrymanderers. Am I here to cry about it? No. Am I playing a whataboutism game? No, I'm actually not in this case. All I am saying is let's be mature adults about the situation. Instead of virtue signaling, instead of all the moralizing about gerrymandering and Republicans are so bad and they're rigging the midterms. How about both left and right be adults and recognize that, hey, this is politics, okay? And in politics, both parties ultimately are going to do what's in their favor to gain power and control. So I'm not crying at the Democrats. I'm not saying, oh, Gavin Newsom, you have to redraw your map. It's not fair. It's not fair. I'm not this little freaking baby about it. All I am saying is that if Democrats are going to play the game, Republicans ought to play the same game, right? And of course, you could make an argument that gerrymandering shouldn't be a thing and there should be some bipartisan control to ensure it doesn't happen. But first of all, to the extent where that doesn't, it's not the case, okay, play the game as it's given to you. But even secondly, I would note that even with the efforts to do these independent commissions and all these things to prevent gerrymandering, very often, still in the end, the congressional map ends up favoring the party that's in control. Yeah, newsflash, again, if a party has control of a congressional map, they're likely to draw it in their favor. So again, I don't have an inherent issue with the insane gerrymandering that Democrats did in the last census. After all, they had power and they used it. That's completely fair. But again, these people virtue signal and pretend like this is some type of Republican rigging effort when it is not. So with all of that in mind, now keeping in, knowing the fact that Republicans are going to gain at least 5 seats here in Texas, you have J.D. Vance going out here and stating what we've been saying for weeks now, which is, and I quote, "The gerrymander in California is outrageous. Of their 52 congressional districts, 9 of them are Republican. That means 17% of their delegation is Republican when Republicans regularly win 40% of the vote in that state. How can this possibly be allowed?" Now, of course, this was a shot at Gavin Newsom, who replied by this. He stated here saying, quote, "Try again, dum-dum." And he shows this random map of, as you can see here, I don't know how he thought this was evidence, but most gerrymandered states in 2025, and they're basically all Republican or Trump states, right? Of course, worth noting, Illinois here, not included. Even New York Times has admitted that's a gerrymander state. Maryland not included. Oh, Maryland is included. Okay, there you go. So at least we got one. But what's the source here? Who are you citing? Notice he doesn't provide a source. It's just a subjective opinion. Here's a chart that drawn by a Democrat that says Republicans are the gerrymanders. Ha ha ha. What's this supposed to prove? I don't even know. But that was Gavin Newsom's pretty, pathetic response there. But again, there you have it. It's worth noting, though, as we pointed out here before, that even according to the New York Times, despite all of Newsom's empty threats about how he's going to fight fire with fire, he's going to do this back as well, as we read through this article extensively, but just to briefly recap, Democrats have few tools to counter GOP redistricting. Why is that? Because as the New York Times here even pointed out, these states where you do not have this independent commission and the legislature can actually do what Texas is doing, that includes Maryland and Illinois, guess what? They're already extensively gerrymandered. Because Democrats in the last census gerrymandered to the absolute maximum. Heck, you could argue they did a good job at it, but that also means they don't have a further ceiling to go past. Republicans, on the other hand, who played way too conservatively with their, efforts to draw their own maps in their favor, have a lot more room to work with. Hence why, by the way, Democrats are so panicked, as well as California. Gavin Newsom there will have to go through the independent commission, which is already heavily Democratic favored. It's already obviously drawing maps in their favor. But how is he going to get an even more gerrymandered California map? Firstly, through the state legislature, through a special election, all that. But also, secondly here, do that before 2026. And thirdly, make sure it stands up in the court, which is another part that we're kind of missing about this. They also have to withstand legal scrutiny. The reason why Texas is doing theirs is because when you look at that ridiculous 33rd district and the minority majority stuff and all this nonsense, that can stand up to legal scrutiny. But if Democrats want to gerrymander even more, that is unlikely to be the case, which I guess brings us all to the central conclusion that the threats that you keep on hearing like this are utterly empty. Gee, you don't say.
Absolutely. This is the war for the future of our country and the soul of our democracy. What the Trump administration has done is kick millions of people off of health care, make a bunch of seniors and veterans and kids go hungry, and they've obliterated due process and through our immigration actions that they've been taking. And so this is all-out war for what does our country stand for and where are we going in the future? And so, I'm all for fair and independent maps as long as we're all playing by the same rules. But if Republicans want to do partisan gerrymandering in states like Texas and Florida and the like, then Democrats need to do the same in blue states like California to level out the playing field. We can't go forward, given the state of our country, with our hands handcuffed behind our back and not playing by the same rules. It's just not okay anymore. So this is, as I think there's an old Abraham Lincoln quote, when times are anew, the calls of actions are anew, and it's time to have a fresh look at things.
Yeah, okay, again, lady, you guys are already partisan gerrymandering, so, what's the big deal? Now, with all of that in mind, despite all of the freak out, I once again want to point out to Democrats, if you're so confident about 2026, it's going to be a blue wave year, it's going to be like 2018 or 2006 where you should win 20 to 30 congressional seats, why are you so concerned about 5 in Texas? What difference is that really going to make in the end? Even if other states join it, Ohio, Florida, Missouri, that ends up being about 10. Still, what are you so concerned about? But of course, we know this is the answer. Despite their rhetoric about how, oh, Republicans are that desperate because they're politically unpopular. I mean, no, you guys are favored in the midterms. You should be. You're the opposition party. You know, you guys usually win the House, as Republicans usually do when it's reversed. No, it's actually you guys who are this panicked about it because you know, oh, it's not going to be a blue wave. Oh, wait a minute. You know, this should be easy. We're the opposition party. The incumbent is divisive. You know, Democrats will turn out. We know how the trend goes, but that's not the case because our party's in a 20% approval rating, right? They're the ones who are desperate. They're the ones who are freaking out about it. They're hence the ones why, when it came to the census, they gerrymandered all their own maps because they understood they're kind of maybe clinging to power a little bit. And, oh, wait a minute, that's backfiring a little bit because now Republicans are doing the same. And they're the ones who, of course, understand that 2026 is going to be a dogfight, and it shouldn't be. In historical precedent, it should be an easy election for Democrats to win at the House level. Republicans have a tiny majority already that they're defending. Again, not incumbent party, all that stuff. But that's, of course, not the case. Now, with that said, I want to show you some of the local chaos going on because today a black Republican veteran showed up to a Democrat committee or whatever on redistricting, and all these people are freaking out in the crowd. And he further went on to basically just troll all of them, state to obvious, and it got pretty entertaining. So check it out.
In the great state of Texas, as a black American, Afghanistan veteran, a retired department head of the U.S. Department of Justice, I strongly support the Republican redistricting. I do not want, nor does the great state of Texas or this magnificent nation deserve to continue.
Gentlemen will yield. The gentleman will be accorded the same respect that everyone testifying receives. We will come to order. Everyone, regardless of your belief, political persuasion, or age, or whoever you are an American and you're entitled to be heard, and you will be heard in this committee. The audience will come to order. The gentleman is recognized to continue his testimony.
I do not want the great state of Texas or this magnificent nation deserve to continue seeing systemic gang and street violence, a plummeting educational system, communities deteriorating, men and women's sports, etc., while Democrats sit quietly and fall to condemn or acknowledge the systemic moral decay, screaming systemic racism for anything that does not fit their narrative. These acts of evil must stop. We need Republican leadership for such a time as this. Republicans have a larger story. Echoing the words of the American icon, Mr. Frederick Douglass, you will not be judged by the heights you have risen, but from the depths you have climbed. I am a Republican, a black dyed-in-the-wool Republican, and I never intend to belong to any other party but the party of freedom and progress, Frederick Douglass. We need and must have increased Republican leadership in the great state of Texas to remain great. As president of the Frederick Douglass Republicans of Tarrant County, I stand behind this statement. Simplified.
Thank you for your testimony.
Any questions for me?
Members, any questions for this witness?
And Mr. Chairman.
Yield. Hey,
Please stop doing
this is America. We hear from everyone, whether we agree with them or not. And the audience will come to order and extend.
I love it. I love it. Notice how angry they get. They cry out in pain as they strike you. Notice how mad they are when we propose the idea of playing the game as they play. You know, that's a crowd of people who are panicking because they're being called out on their own BS. The Republicans are now matching their level of energy, and they're like, no, you can't play fair, no. Utterly hilarious. I have to say, too, that normally we as conservatives don't have time to do this type of BS. So let's show up to committee, a town hall, all this stuff, and scream. But, if for those of you who have the time, and, it's not many of us, but I think we need to start doing this more. Because why not? Why not? They want to have this whole stupid, obnoxious, performative, grandstanding act where they're like, we screamed at a town hall. Look, Americans are rising up. We can do that too. We can gather a crowd of 10 to 20 people. We don't have to do it paid by George Soros, by the way. And we can say, oh, look, we're here. We're screaming. We're mad at the Democrats for being so obnoxious. Like, we can do that, But anyways, with that said, we also got the news today that apparently Indiana may be looking at doing some redistricting that should pick up about maybe 1 to 2 Republican seats. We also covered here that Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is reiterating he is looking very seriously at redistricting the Florida congressional maps as Texas looks to do the same. This could result very likely in about 2 to 3 more Republican seats, depending on how that all plays out. Look, I encourage all the red states to do it, because obviously the blue states are already saying, oh, we're going to retaliate because of what Texas is doing. Who knows if they go through with it, but who cares? Take that at face value. Again, play the game to win. And look at it and say, okay, the blue states are retaliating. Guess what? There are more red states in this country than blue states. Okay, that's the reality. And when you look again at the state of gerrymandering in America, Republicans have way more to do because Democrats already did most of what they can do. So if Democrats want to unleash that, if they want to make such a big deal out of Texas and we're going to fight back, okay, Democrats, again, you're kind of boomeranging yourself with this one. You're boomeranging yourself because guess what? When we play the game as you will, we will win. As it turns out, despite your best efforts to persuade America to the contrary, no, it is actually your party who cannot win a solid House majority without gerrymandering in 2026. So you know what? Let's shut that out. Play the game fair. Welcome the politics. Be mature. Let them scream. Let them cry about it. I think Republicans ought to just stop listening to the virtue signaling and play to win. Because Democrats do that. Guess what? We see their dirty tricks. Okay, do them as well, right? Again, you can be an adult about it. You can say, okay, let's do that. Or you can sit here and go, boo, boo. So that's the way I see it. All right, with all of that said, guys, let me know your thoughts on this in the comment section down below. What do you think of Gavin Newsom's fake threat of retaliation? What do you think of the current outrage over this that's completely selective? Let me know. Be sure to leave a like on this video, guys. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. And until next time, God bless and peace.